who has been involved. She's a parent, she's a principal, and she's been involved when it comes to getting young people ready for the future, preparing them. She is Amaka Anenkwe. She's called Diamond Principal. She is the principal of Capital City Secondary School, Oka. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you.
All right. School is resuming on Monday. Most public schools are resuming on Monday. Some private have resumed last week. What is the sense? I know that for you as an administrator, you must have met with your teachers maybe in the past week to prepare for the school resumption. But just give us an overview of what the air is like for you as teachers while these students begin to come back to school.
Actually, before students come back to school, we put up strategies of how to take care of them. Like school will resume on Monday, but already we have had pre-resumption meeting of the teachers where we tell ourselves how we performed last term and how we are going to take up for the new term and how we are going to welcome these children back to school. We know that if it is a boarding school, for instance, some students, when they come back, they will feel nostalgic. So we have put in place how we are going to make them cope again with the school activities, because they've already stayed for some months at home.
And you know, usually the long vacation is usually long.
Yes.
When we were kids, you don't pray for resumption of school once in September. But most times, because you're entering a new class, you're always expectant.
Yes, you will be eager to go into the class. Even just like yesterday, when we were having meetings, some students came to the school to know, that is to go and get where they are going to stay in the new class. So it's a thing of joy. But when they come and they know that they did not pass that class, they will not be happy. But those people that are confident, that have seen their names as people that passed, they will rush to the next class. So we're optimistic that by Monday we will start in earnest.
All right. Now let's get into the big elephant in the room, balancing childcare while school is in session. We were talking about it, and you talked about a triangle, a kind of pyramid when it comes to this function. Can you elaborate more what you mean?
Yes. You know, the topic is balancing childcare when school is in session. Now, three things are involved, or three persons. You have the parent, you have the school, you have the child. It is triangular. So the parents will do their bit in preparing the students before they move them to the school. Preparation in terms of buy them school bags, buy books, those things that are needed for them to take off. They are the responsibility of the parents. And you know that if a child has all these things before coming to school, the child will be very confident. And now when the child goes to school, the school will start taking care of the child. It is now the duty of the parents again, when the child comes back home, to check what the child has done for the day. You know, because if a child knows that when he or she comes back, that the parent is going to check her exercise book and know what she has done for the day, they will wake up. In school, you have some children, when they come to school, they may not even write anything for the day. Yet, the teacher taught them, and they wrote assignment. So such students, if they are not checked at home, then they will continue to do that. But if they are checked, there will be fear in them that when they go home, their parents will check, so they will start to be attentive at alert in the school. So it is a three-way traffic. It involves the parents, the teacher, that is the school, and then the child. So in taking care of the child, to balance that equation now, everybody, all hands must be on deck.
So where are there usually a disconnect between these three people involved in having a standard upbringing for a child? Where do we usually have a disconnect?
It is at home.
Okay.
Most parents are busy. They send their child to school and they'll be happy. Oh, let me go my way. Then, if the child comes back to from school, let's say for instance, a child that is going from school from home, if the child comes back to school to meet no one, and because the parents will be at in the shop or wherever, so the child will stay from maybe 2:30 or when the school dismisses till maybe around 7 when the parents will come back. So what will that child be doing? That is why some caring parents will tell the child, come to my shop when you dismiss, so that is you take care of that child also. It is not left for the school alone, because once you ask a child to go to school and the child comes to school, definitely the school takes care of the child. And then there'll be a time again when the child will come back to you after school. For those of them that don't live in the dormitory, the child will come back. So it is your duty again to take care of that child when he or she comes back.
All right.
So, but when you are not there as a parent to take care of the child, you won't know what happens in between.
Now, I also want to bring in the angle of the teachers, especially in public schools where you have form mistress for classes, and then also, like you mentioned, those who are staying in boarding school or dormitories. And then it seems as if there are no strong monitoring for these form mistress to ensure that they are also taking care of the kids or the students in the class where they are placed in charge of, or the hostel mistresses and masters. That you begin to hear several kind of stories, a child being molested, a child being beaten up, and those kind of things. How can teachers also function actively in those responsibilities to ensure that when a parent hands you over his or her kid, that trust for those hours or for those days or for those months that the child will be in the hostel, that you meet up and keep up with them?
Yeah, teaching is a job of conscience. And teachers are like mothers. They are like parents to the students. And we have this mindset that whatever you do to a child, God will also, through other people, do it to your own child. So in school, we have checks on how, we plan on how teachers are going to take care of their students. If you are a form teacher of a class, once you, immediately after assembly, you go to that class and then call the roll. I mark for them. In the register, you mark for them 1 stroke in the morning. Then towards afternoon, before dismissal, you go back again to the class and do the roll call again, where you have the complete strokes in the register. So if you are a form teacher and you did not go to your class in the morning to call the name, maybe you mark in your on your desk there, marking for them, assuming that all of them are in school, then you are not a good form teacher. So those things are put in place to help teachers check and know that the child is actually in the classroom or not, or whether the child left the school before dismissal. So the register is put in place for such checks. And then the form teachers also go to the class to mentor them, talk to them, and then check what is happening in your class and advise them aright.
I don't know if they're existing now, but I think in some schools, or when we're in school, once the assembly ends, 8 o'clock is for one subject already. So I don't know if principals like yourself are beginning to maybe include this kind of sessions as a time, as a maybe period in school, the timetable for the day. Maybe the first session is for students and their form teachers to have that interactive session. Do you have something like that in Capital City?
Yes. In my school, we have that, assembly starts by 7:40 and ends by 8. Yeah. Then between 8 and 8:05, lessons start by 8:05. Okay. So that 5 minutes is what the form teacher will use to do the roll call, and then talk to the students maybe. And then we also have meeting form teacher with their form classes. Okay. They meet maybe once in 2 weeks, so that they will interact. We even have they normally have secretaries of the class. Yes, so the form teacher always have meeting with the class. That is when you discuss issues that they have raised, and then put things in place in your class. So we have that interaction.
All right. So let's now move back to the parents. As the school is resuming, how can parents prepare their child emotionally and psychologically? Because like you pointed out, whenever it's season for school resumption, we talk about buying books, buying school uniforms. Some schools and private schools would already written down the school uniforms you must buy from them. And then books also, but you just come to pay. And most times the parents are just prepared financially without preparing their kids emotionally and psychologically, maybe for the next class. I had some friends then, a very good student, but whenever he's entering a new class, he enters that new class with so much anxiety. This young person will still come out one of the best in class, but every new class, every new stage comes with anxiety for him. He will always be anxious on how to cope, whether he can cope in the new class. How can parents prepare their child emotionally and psychologically when they are starting the new session or even any academic session, any new term?
In preparing a child to go into a new class, that is the duty of the parent. So, like if a child just finished JS3 and the child will go into senior secondary, the onus lies on the parent to tell the child what is expected of him. Like a parent may tell a child that once you start from day one, if you want to take the first position in class, from day one, what you do is whatever is done that day, make sure that you write the assignment. Then when you come home, you have the opportunity to revise whatever is done for the day. So that when you revise, the next morning when you go to school and come back again, you rehearse what has been done. Now, if it is English language, for example, after rehearsing, then you pick some assignment from the textbooks you have. Then you do that. If you do that day one, day two, and continuously like that, by the time exam is around the corner, you will not have any fear that you pass naturally, because you have already prepared. But if you jump pack whatever is done daily in the school, then on the examination day you find out that you start running skelter. I've not read this, I've not read, and by the end of the day you may even fail. So the parents will tell the child and give the child the opportunity to study at home. Because if it is a child that lives in the dormitory, they have time for all these things. Time for siesta, time to read and all this. But if your child is going to school from home, make sure that you give that child time to practice at home. When the child comes home, give him time to eat, to do everything, and then go and study. Whatever was done in the school that day, the child will rehearse. Then use textbooks to make up his or her notes. Then you find out that if you are doing this consistently, by the time the exam comes, your child will take even the first position because he has worked hard for it.
All right. Still on that issue, how can parents and the teachers work together? When we you talked about the triangular form, and by calling it that triangular, you are not removing the fact that there is a meeting point. How can parents and teachers have a meeting point? You don't just send some parents send their kids to school without knowing the parents of, the teachers of those kids. Some teachers will teach a child for 6 years without meeting even one single parent of a child in his or her class. How can we have that meeting point? Who should link it up? Is it the teacher or the parent? Who should make a move to ensure that your kids are doing well at school?
We have Parent-Teachers Association meetings, PTA meetings. So there we tell the parents to communicate with the form teacher or the class teacher of the child's the class. Then, so that you know what and what to maybe to correct or something like that. But now that we are in digital age, we have a method of doing that faster. Okay. We created WhatsApp group for the parents in the class. So each form teacher, for example, will create a WhatsApp group for the parents in the class. So that you communicate them, even the assignment, you show them so that they help the child to do the assignment at home. So this communication, they air their views. If the child comes home and is not doing well and maybe there's any complaint, you can air your view there so that the teacher and other parents will take correction. So we have class by class WhatsApp group for the parents to interact with the teacher.
And those WhatsApp groups are lively working?
Yes, but some people complain that they don't have light. So some parents who live in rural area, they don't have light to participate in that. But they receive such information from their child, and maybe when they come for PTA meeting, they'll be well informed.
All right. So let's also go further to look at the fact that you've already spoken elaborately on how a parent can monitor a child's development. Now, let me bring another aspect. Some parents will tell you, I really want to do this, but the kind of business I do, the kind of work I do, might not actually give me that leverage. Some parents travel a lot. I know some parents that leave the houses maybe as early as 5 a.m. in the morning and come back late. How can such parents cope? You have other parents who are, let me use myself for instance, those in journalism profession, you know that you don't own your time. You can move at any time and come back at any time. How can someone at that level perform actively or be seen actively in the life of his or her kids without just being a financial parent?
That is why many parents, they confide so much maybe in a teacher. You find a parent that will tell the teacher, please, I'm not always around, take good care of my child. Maybe at times he'll give you phone call to, please let my child stay with you until I come back so and so time. So they will put measures in place for their children to be taken care of. And that is why you see that some people after school, 2:30, they will stay up to 5 p.m. You know, because they want to delay, so that the time they will be coming back, their child will not come back. And it doesn't augur well with such children, because a child will always want to go to school and go back to the house, you know, relax for the next day. So it actually doesn't augur well, but there's no way. Parents must do something to keep the family going. So, but in that case, what I advise the parents to do is to have a capable hand that will take care of your child when the child comes back from school. So that, and then when you come back, try to monitor what the child is doing, even with the house help that you kept in the house.
All right. If you're just joining us this morning, we're on the program The Weekend Show, and this morning we are looking at something that most of us will be interested in hearing. It is about balancing childcare while school is in session. Most times, parents are eager to take full responsibility of what is happening in the life of their kids. But maybe social, economic, political issues might make it very difficult. And then we're trying to see a way that you can still do well in those functions as a parent, even while your children are in school, and also be very present in their lives. You see some kids saying, forget that woman, the only one she cares is how to bring money, we don't even see her. We don't want your child making such comments, and that is why we are discussing it this morning. If you're just joining us, the person with us this morning is someone who has been involved. She's a renowned teacher. She's taking students all over the world in the process of being a teacher. And today she's known as Diamond Principal, the principal of Capital City Secondary School, Awka, Amaka Anekwa. Well, good morning and welcome again.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Let's begin to tie up our loose ends in the discussion, especially as it concerns this issue of balancing childcare. Now, most times teachers would talk to them maybe on what they can do and how they can navigate in their life careers. How can a teacher in the classroom begin to understand the peculiar needs of each of the child in his or her classroom and how to help them? Now, this session is starting. Maybe Some, you see a student who was doing well last semester or last session, and then coming up to the new session, he drastically reduces. How can that teacher identify those kind of people and begin to help them immediately?
Yes, you know that teachers role model to their students. So a good teacher will always observe every child in his class to know when the child is doing well and when the child is not doing well. Then if you observe that a student in your class has problem or is not doing well or is moody, it is the duty of the teacher to call the student to know what actually is wrong. And at times when you ask them this question, some of them will start crying. And then because they are children, they want somebody they will lean on, so that child will tell you exactly what is happening. But if you are not observant, you will not observe the problem in the class. It was even a teacher, for instance, that observed that a house help was molesting a child in her class. The child was not even able to tell the parents the story. It was the teacher that observed how moody the child was in the class and then invited her. What's wrong with you? That is to her seat, not in the classroom. I observed that you are not doing, no, you are this. And then the child was open and told her what was happening in the house. So the teacher now called drew the attention of the parent and told them what is happening. And then they observed it at home and the house help had to leave. So that molestation the child faced in the home really affected her. But it was the teacher that noticed it. And then the child confided in her and the problem was solved. So as a teacher, we don't just stand up and teach. We touch these students both psychologically, physically and emotionally. When you see the emotional state of your child, you will know when it changes. So you are doing the role of a parent in the school. So that is why we don't stop at teaching only. You care for them. If a child tells you now, for example, that my mother went to the hospital yesterday, that was why I came late. Feel free the next morning to care, show care. Ask that child, how is your mom? How is she this morning? You know, you are caring. And that child will definitely not hide anything from you. So when we are doing the job of teaching, we are passionate about it. We're passionate about teaching. So a teacher has to check the child, that is, role model the child in all aspects of life. That is why you are there. You are a role model, worthy of emulation even. So teaching profession is passion oriented.
All right, let me now ask you, as we begin to round up, if you are already at the policy-making level of education system as a principal, you must have been in places where issues that concern education are discussed. Now, as a person, as we get into a new session, what are the things you think should be of priority to principals when it comes to the policies they make in schools to standardize or to continue? The present government under Soludo always emphasizes on reforms, doing things the new way, innovations. You just mentioned one where teachers and parents have to discuss on WhatsApp. He wasn't there while we were in school, and now you've introduced it, and I think it's a wonderful one. You can even get to know the teachers one-on-one, even know what are the kind of driving motives they have. So what are the kind of policies you think principals of schools should begin to, maybe a principal is watching now, maybe a teacher is watching, what kind of policies do you think they should begin to innovate on to make our schools more conducive for our children, to make these schools more learning supporting for these kids?
Actually, we are going digital, and the administration of Soludo is bent on digitalizing schools, kind of. So I think he has a plan of maybe bringing in the thumbprint of, that is, when you come to school, you thumbprint and it goes to the net, that is to check lateness, which is quite good. And the schools on their own will have to create e-learning. Already, Commissioner for Education, Professor Ngozi Chumude, introduced this biometric data collection so that it will be centralized. So not just doing it on your school alone.
Yeah.
It will be maybe in the government COFO. You now have every school. You have every document of the school in that that is government. Government will see everything concerning the schools. If you want to know the number of students in all the schools in Anambra State, you have it at a place. So that one is also in place. So I think the idea of digitalizing schools and making the students and the teachers key into the digital learning is very, very important, because the world, we are trying to create a situation whereby Anambra State students will compete with the global world.
And they're doing that already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just last month, we went to Malaysia for debate competition, and Anambra State took the first position and came back with the trophy. So these students were picked from different schools, you know, and when they go out there, they now see that it is not, that is, the color of the skin is not is nothing. That you as a black color person can even win in any competition. So it depends on what you have here. And Anambra State Education family is trying its best to ensure that these students are allowed to compete with other people, both in quiz, in debate, in a technical aspect of it. So I think it's a welcome development that we are imbibing the digital scheme in the whole schools now. So, but what we are asking for is maybe for those of them that are in rural area that don't even have service. There are some that will tell you if they want to have they have network problem, there will be a particular place they will stand, then they will get service. Once they leave that place, it will go out. So it's still there in some places. So we just pray for a time when all these things will be put in place, and the education system will improve greatly.
All right, finally, your advice to our parents and teachers as schools resume on Monday.
So as school will resume on Monday, I know that most parents have been preparing, saving some money that they will use to buy certain things for their children. So my advice is that they call their children and tell them the importance of education, tell them how good it will be if they prepare. But they now have to put in place all those things that are needed for the child to do well in school. The parents they have to prepare them and give to the student, equip them, so that when they come to school, they will not lack anything. Then, when these children come to school, the teachers, I advise them to see them as their own biological children. Correct whatever mistakes, correct whatever error, hold them and educate them. Teachers must go to the class and impart that knowledge. That is why they are there. We have cases where at least teachers, we have means of checkmating the teachers. So once it is time for your lesson, you have to go and teach them. Don't play with these children's intelligence. Always be there as a teacher, be there for them, teach them, so that at the end of the day, they will say that they have learned something from you. And then for the school, my fellow principals, I advise us to be careful, be lenient, and then let us see the parents who come to register their children that they are actually finding things hard, because the society is not easy now.
Exactly.
So let us be lenient. If they beg for, like you have some schools where a parent will come and tell you that this money they said they will pay, let me pay 5 naira today, maybe tomorrow I'll complete it. And as a principal, you know that if you are holding that money, it is against the rule. So, but have a way, be compassionate, direct that parent, that is, make the parent to have a sense of belonging by not just saying, if you don't have the money, please go, you know. No, just advise the parent to go. We are going to give you some time, maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. 2 weeks, you go and pay into the bank and bring us the teller. And don't just dismiss the person because he said he doesn't have the money at that particular time. Things are hard. So we have to help them so that all these things, both their children at the school and the parents, it's just a cycle like that so that everybody will be happy.
Thank you. It's always an exciting time having you, Diamond Principal Amaka Enekwe, here on ABS Television. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Amaka Enekwe is the principal of Capital City Secondary School, Awka. She's also one of the facilitators of Anambra State debate team.
Yeah, I'm the coordinator.
Yes. I just want to congratulate you once again in that exciting win at Malaysia.
Thank you.
A few months ago. Thank you for joining us on the program. Let's now move over to our breakfast news studio for breakfast news at 8. Join us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my dear.